Hello again, everybody. This is Derek from ScreamingBullAirsoft.com, and today what I want to do is I'm going to paint my airframe helmet in a multicam pattern. Okay, this is the airframe, and I want to paint it. Now, as you know, I made an attempt at painting multicam in the past, and what I was using was female stencils, where, you know what I'm talking about, where you have a stencil with a hole, when you spray, the paint goes through the hole, you know, onto your subject matter. Well, what had happened when I used the female stencils, you get a little overspray inside the stencil, and it causes a pretty cool faded effect. Well, I've noticed after really studying my multicam uniforms and gear, that some of it is faded, but some of it is sharp lines. It's got a mixture of sharp lines and digital fade. So I'm going to attempt. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos of other people doing multicam, and this is going to be my experiment, my attempt at doing it. I'm making some changes because, in my opinion, some of the colors are not exactly what they're using. Some of them I love. Some of the ideas are great. And these are the two guys that I watched, and you can watch their videos too. I'm going to put them right here so you can kind of see their videos, give them some props. I'm going to start off with the materials that you need. You need the item you're going to be painting, duh, obviously, some wax paper. Now, the reason why you need wax paper is that you're going to be using blue painter's tape. Okay, when you make your stencils, you're making them with blue painter's tape, but you want to make some large stencils, so you put this on the wax paper to kind of make a larger sheet of blue painter's tape, and then when you cut out your stencils, you can peel it off the wax paper easy. Okay, that's why you need wax paper, and to cut it, you will need some kind of razor blade, X-Acto knife, or something like that. Box knife maybe if it's really sharp. I'm using a Sharpie to write my stencils on there. I'm going to trim the edges with a pair of scissors. And what I'm also going to be using is, I have my multicam jacket that I'm going to be using to get some ideas on what size and shapes that these patterns should be. Now the colors I will explain as we go. This video, right now, I am running this thing at 1235. Okay, it's 1235 here. And every time I add a color, I'm going to give you a time stamp to kind of give you an idea of how long this process is actually taking. All of these colors I either bought at my local Ace Hardware or at Walmart. This is my old paintball mask that I had painted, and I'm going to also paint this while I'm here. It's going to be part of my new loadout, where I'm going to have my airframe, as you can see here, and my paintball mask, and they fit together pretty well, pretty stylish right there on my head. That's how I wear it, and that's how I'm going to be wearing it. All right, the base coat. The base coat is 1238. The base coat is Satin River Rock by Krylon. Satin River Rock. I noticed other people are using almond. Almond and River Rock are almost the exact same color, but when you put them side by side, you can see River Rock has a little bit more of a gray look to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover my entire helmet and mask plates that I'm actually going to cover. Now, it has rails here that I could remove, and I could take these off, but no, I want to put my multicam pattern on these rails also, and as I use the rails for lights or cameras, then if it scratches some of the paint off, it'll be okay because they're already tan. So if you use this technique to paint anything black or tan, don't fret if you scratch some of the paint off, because you have black or tan underneath, and both of those are also good camouflage colors. Alright, that was the River Rock. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the stencils for you right here. We're going to get some wax paper. Alright, what I did was I got some 3M painter's tape with with edge guard or whatever it's called, and I got the almost the 2-inch wide, so I can use less strips of paint of the tape Now when you put the tape down, you want it to overlap so that when you cut it out, they stick together. So you want it to overlap a little bit, you know. So I'm going to double side this. So that when I cut my stencils out, I'll actually have twice as many stencils. If that makes sense to you. Okay, once you get your wax paper covered completely with the tape, I cut off around the edges, making a nice clean piece of paper to work with. Alright, now what I do is I take a piece of Multicam and I kind of get an idea of how the shapes and sizes of the patterns are. They don't have to be anywhere near being exact. It's just to get an idea, you know, just to get some crazy pattern shapes and some ideas. Just draw them on there. Okay, and once you get a bunch of patterns pinned in on your paper, stencils, now all you need to do is cut them out. Alright, well I got my stencils cut out, and you can see that I've got these right here. These are my white stencils. That's this color here that I'm using, which it's not white, it's actually the River Rock. While the next coat is drying, then I'll be cutting out the next coat's stencils. If it's an elongated stencil, you should put it horizontal on your item because that's the way Multicam is. Those whites tend to be in horizontal stripes, and you also want to group the whites together in little clumps of stencils. All right, this is after cutting out the stencils and sticking them on. You can kind of see that I've grouped them in groups. I've put the larger stencils in a horizontal pattern. I've spread them out over the 3 items that I've got here. And I still have a few stencils left over because you don't want to clutter it, because the white is very minimal on your Multicam pattern. It's supposed to be just a few little spots here and there. Is the Krylon dark brown. It almost looks black, right? But it's not. It's actually a dark brown. Cover the whole thing over the stencils and everything. Okay, and while this color is drying, I'm going to go ahead and cut out my next brown stencils. Alright, and this is after the brown. I put the stencils on. Again, you want to put them close to the white stencils. Some of them overlap in groups. You want to group your stencils, and you want to have them mostly horizontal. But there is no rhyme or reason. You can just put them on there in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Alright, now here comes the tricky part. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of fading. Okay, after these stencils we're going to fade, and then we're going to put on some large stencils. But when we fade, what we're going to do is we're going to use a very light brown. The brown I'm using here is called Brown Boots by Krylon. What we're going to do is we're going to put it in large swaths across the helmets, kind of at a diagonal pattern. Okay, and then in between the stripes, basically I'm making stripes, wide stripes. In between the stripes, I'm going to use an army green by Rust-oleum Camouflage, and that's going to be in like thinner stripes, mainly just to separate the brown and the green. And those are going to be kind of faded together because I'm not using any kind of stencil on this when I put these 2 colors side by side. Okay, here we go. Diagonal stripes. I don't know if you can kind of see that on the camera, but dark brown, light brown, very fast. Motions on my arm. Between the 2 colors. These 2 colors kind of fade into each other. You can kind of see that really good right here. Alright, I'm going to let this dry, and while I'm letting this dry, I'm going to be cutting out my large stencils. Also, just as an FYI, I've given up on the X-Acto knife and I've gone to the scissors because it seems like I'm cutting my stencils out twice as fast by using the scissors on this instead of the X-Acto knife. Now that we've got our large stencils cut out, you know, our huge stencils, what we're going to do is we're going to put them on the brown. We want the majority of the brown to shine through, and not so much the green, because when we put the next coats on, that's going to cover most of the green. But when you put your large stencils on, when you cover the brown, you want some of that to overlap into the green, because you do want a little bit of that green fade effect under the stencil that you're creating, that you're covering. Alright guys, now this is going to be my second to last step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mist or fade in the opposite direction as my last brown. And I'm using Rust-oleum, Camouflage, Khaki. You use any khaki, and I'm using Rust-oleum Spruce Green right here. Go ahead and get started. Let's start with Spruce Green. Again, I'm doing this in opposite directions, and I'm doing it approximately 50% I'm evening it out. My khaki and my green will be about the same percentage of paint. Okay, let that dry just a little bit, and then I will paint the khaki. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to let this dry, then I'm going to peel it, and we'll have a reveal, and then we'll do the final step. Alright guys, we're going to go into the big reveal, see what it looks like after I peel off all the stencils. Go. Peeling this off at 4:30. Alright guys, that's the finished product. The final step is to spray a little bit of this clear, flat sealant over it. And what it'll do is it'll take this shine that you see right there off of it, and it'll make it flat. Because if you're using matte is not glossy, but it is also not flat. It's like an in-between. So to get a flat coat and an even coat, just get the Krylon clear flat, spray it on the entire surface, maybe 1 or 2 coats. It'll help protect your paint job, and it'll dull it down to a flat coat. Alright, now thanks for coming out and checking out this video. I hope this helped you. If you guys were inspired by this, go out and paint some of your gear, like your guns, your magazines, your masks, whatever. Multicam. Thanks for coming out and checking out this video. And remember guys, whenever you're on your airsoft field, play safe.